The New York State Department of Transportation presents the DOT POD.
And welcome into the DOT POD. I'm Josh Heller, delighted to have you joining me and very excited about today's topic and thrilled about today's guests as well. We have a special guest host joining me today. We'll get into that in a moment. We also have two incredible New York State leaders who are joining us today. And what we're going to talk about, and we're going to waste no time getting into it, we're going to talk about NYHelps, and that stands for the New York Hiring for Emergency Limited Placement Statewide. It's a groundbreaking hiring initiative designed to help New York State departments and agencies fill open positions more quickly and effectively. So, if you're someone who's thinking about working for the state of New York or know someone who might be, this is definitely the episode for you to tune in. So let's welcome in our guest. We have a guest host, as I mentioned, someone who is very familiar here with the DOT, a former DOT member, a team member of ours, and currently the Assistant Director of the Office of Public Information. That is Bryan Viggiani. Bryan, thanks so much for sitting down.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Absolutely. And again, deeply honored to be joined by our very own New York State Department of Transportation Commissioner, Therese Dominguez. Commissioner Dominguez, thank you so much. We're so excited to have you on.
Such a pleasure to be here.
And we're also joined by New York State Department of Civil Service Commissioner Timothy Hogues. Commissioner Hogues, again, thank you so much for taking some time and coming and sitting down with us.
Thank you. It's awesome. I'm excited.
So again, thank you all for coming in and joining. So before we get into NYHelps, and we certainly will spend most of our time talking about that, but we like to get to know our guests a little bit better, especially for those who may not be as familiar. Obviously, a lot of our listeners very familiar with Commissioner Dominguez, but maybe not necessarily familiar with her story or her background. So, Commissioner Dominguez, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about your path to where you are today and leading this massive transformational agency.
Well, I have to say I've been incredibly fortunate, and part of my path has been, I'll call a little bit of serendipity, in the sense that I was supposed to go to work for a law firm. I had my law firm gig all lined up, right? Very proud. I could actually pay my law school debt off. I had an opportunity coming out of law school to join the U.S. Department of Transportation. At the time, President Clinton had just been elected. And my local congresswoman, who's the first congresswoman, first woman to actually be elected to Congress from the state of Virginia, came to me and said, look, they're asking for qualified people to come into the administration. Would you be interested? Anyway, long story short, she put my name forward. It ended up at transportation. And I wasn't really sure what transportation did, but what an incredible opportunity. And that's literally how I got my start. I was 8 years in the Clinton administration and the majority of the time in transportation. I was at USDOT. I had the chance to work at the National Transportation Safety Board for the chairman. This is at a time when there was a serious issues with 737s. They were literally falling out of the sky. We had TWA 800, value jet, number of serious aviation concerns. After that, I had a chance to work for about 3 years at the Federal Aviation Administration. And my last position was with the United States Department of the Army, and specifically I was the number 2 for Civil Works, which is the Corps of Engineers. And so all of that is transportation, water infrastructure, and later on in my career, I had the chance to lead up the department under President Obama. I was a Senate-confirmed appointee heading up the agency known as the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, which is responsible for all hazmat in transportation, so every mode of transportation. So I was confirmed into that position at a really critical time. That's when we had a number of rail accidents across the United States and in Canada. There was a real problem because the safety regulations for rail cars had not been updated in a very long time, and they needed the rules passed through very quickly. And given my background and how I had worked in government for a very long time and understood the regulatory and safety process. Anyway, that's how I got tapped to do the job. Got confirmed for that job, got a lot of work done in a very short period of time to help make the framework for the movement of oil and gas a lot more safe in this country.
Wow.
So, Commissioner Hogues, I know you've got a very interesting backstory as well. What's led you to your position here in Albany at the Department of Civil Service?
I don't know. I'm still in awe of Commissioner over here. She's done amazing. She's a rock star, superstar. As far as me, it's been an interesting journey to this position. And how did I get here? Who knows? So I graduated from the University of Buffalo after taking a tour of several colleges and having fun and enjoying myself. And I got a degree in human resource management and information systems. And I went right to work for a trucking company. And so I was a dock worker. I was loading trucks up, and the terminal manager came by. So it's second day on the job, terminal manager came by and said, hey, introduced himself, and we're talking. He says, oh, you have a college degree? I was like, yeah. He's like, would you like to be a supervisor? I said, sure. And so I was 2 days on the dock, and then I switched over and I became a supervisor for Roadway Express, which opened up the world to me. And the thing that I believe really brought me here is I just love people. I love problem solving, and I love learning. And so after Roadway, I went to General Motors in Lockport, New York. Started out as a supervisor, became an operations manager, running several departments, but it was still all about the people and mentoring and growth. And then after that, a buddy of mine that I worked with for so long, he had started at a new position. And this was around the 2008, 2009, when the economy was taking a downturn. And it was a private-owned company, and he was having some issues. And he said, hey, Tim, I think they're going to get rid of me because it's crazy here. Could you come over and help? And so I said, sure, let's go. Because I once again, I love solving problems and doing that. And so they manufactured a lot of stuff for aerospace and defense and transportation, and they did a lot of testing probes and all that stuff. And so we just got together and we rocked it. We changed the trajectory of the company, and it took off. And so during that time, someone came to me and tricked me. And they said, hey, do you want to help out and go to the community and talk to some people about this campaign that's happening? And I was like, sure, I'll go. And it was for the county executive, who was the current county executive of Erie County, Mark Poloncarz. And so I started doing that. And then they said, hey, there's an open seat for the legislature. Would you like to run for that? And I was like, no. And I kept saying no, no. And then they sent a 75-year-old woman, Mildred Bishop. And she grabbed me one day and she said, you have to run. We need you to run. Give me your resume, and I'm not taking no for an answer. And so that started my life and career in the public service. And I was elected official for a cycle. Then I started with the Department of Senior Services in Erie County, became the Commissioner of Senior Services, then Commissioner of Personnel for Erie County. And I was driving to work one day, January of 2022, and I got a call from the governor's office. And I was scared. I was like, what did I do? And here I am today, just enjoying life and still getting to deal with people and impact people's lives and change systems through people.
We'd be remiss if we didn't also get a quick little background of our guest co-host today, Bryan Viggiani. Bryan, you have a unique perspective being with the Department of Transportation, now currently with the Department of Civil Service. So tell the folks quickly about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I was with the DOT since 2004. I was there about 19 and a half years. It's a great agency. They help the public in so many ways. We often talked about, every time you walk out your door, you're impacted by the transportation network, and even within your house you are too, because you get deliveries, stuff comes, things come to the house, that sort of thing. And it was a great run, but I wanted an opportunity to try something different and see if I can impact New Yorkers in a different way and help out there. And I've joined this great agency at the Department of Civil Service, and we're really focused on recruiting and rebuilding and building the workforce in so many ways. I mean, public service is really such a noble calling, and we're really trying to get more and more folks in the door. And working with Commissioner Hogues, we're working hard to do that.
So let's get into it, Commissioner Hogues. It's no secret that much like the private sector in New York State, really in the country, there are vacant positions that companies, including the state, are desperately trying to fill. And we'll talk a little bit about the origins of the program in a moment. But first, tell everybody, and we went over what the acronym is, but tell everybody what exactly NYHelps is and what it means for job candidates seeking employment here in New York State.
Yeah, so coming from local civil service, you always hear the question of why does it take so long and why is it so crazy for people to get entrance into a civil service job, whether it's on the local level or the state level. And so when I started in 2022, that was one of the first questions I asked. I said, why and how, right? Coming from my operations background, I always wanted to know why and get to the root cause. And so we just started having a conversation about how can we make it better? How can we eliminate barriers to entry for individuals that are looking for opportunities to have great careers in state jobs? And so we came up with the HELPS program. And essentially what it does is it removes barriers. And so we know that some individuals aren't great test takers. So we've taken steps to adjust tests from multiple choice to what we call a T&E, or a training and experience, where it's more like filling out a survey of your past experience. We've looked at are college degrees really required for a lot of the jobs that we do? And so we're taking a look at that and removing the degree requirement and putting in opportunities for them to fulfill that degree requirement with job experience, because we know that not everyone is going to college these days. And so we're just trying to make it as easy as possible for individuals to enter into state government. And so the HELPS program is a temporary program for individuals to enter in. So jobs that are open to the public, they don't have to take a civil service examination to get in. They just have to meet the minimum qualifications of the job, apply. If they get an interview, be successful in the interview, and they're in.
And I think that's an important thing. This is not just hey, we're getting rid of the test so anybody can work for the state. You still have to have the minimum qualifications. You still have to go through the interview process.
Yes.
We're still looking for the cream of the crop in all state service. So I think that's important to point out. It's removing barriers so very important, especially when we're going to talk about how things had been, but at the same time, still looking for qualified, competent, quality employers or employees rather to hire.
Definitely, we want the best of the best, and so even prior to COVID, we were competing with the private sector, but it became so apparent that we were falling behind after the COVID pandemic started to slow down, and we had the Great Resignation. Many people choosing different pathways as far as work part-time or not working at all for various reasons. And so we were losing a lot of individuals to private sector just because our process took too long. And so they could go to a private sector company, fill out an application, they could get hired on the spot or shortly thereafter. But in civil service, state civil service, we were like, okay, take this exam and then wait, and then get your results, and then wait. And we might call you today, we might call you tomorrow, we might call you a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now. And you're like, I applied for what?
Just for the record, 5 years. I took 5 years from when I took my exam.
All right, you don't need to go much further.
And I'm so sorry. And I apologize on behalf of civil service for that. Right? And so when we look at it, we just try to do things that make sense, right? At the end of the day, does it make sense? Is this an approach that people can understand and appreciate? And we're really trying to simplify the process.
Commissioner Dominguez, that's kind of talking on what Commissioner Hogues spoke about. How did that impact DOT? Obviously, you've got to wait. Back the way things used to be, job applicants would have to wait, again, like Commissioner Hogues mentioned, sometimes for years before an exam would show up. Again, not everyone's a great test taker. What were some of the unintended consequences that the old way of doing things had on an agency such as DOT?
Well, let me just say from the get-go that what I appreciate about the HELPS program and what I appreciate about Commissioner Hogue and his leadership is that he came in with fresh eyes. And he said, okay, I'm hearing about these barriers. I want to work with folks to actually figure out how we overcome them. And first and foremost, he came in with the right attitude and the right ability to like say, okay, how can I actually work with everybody to make this happen? And you did convene a group of several different groups, like I'll call them sounding boards,
Yeah.
to actually understand what's going on, right, from the agency's perspectives and others. But it's refreshing. In answer to your question, Bryan, it's refreshing to have that because I'll tell you, I've worked in civil service. I've worked in public service the entirety of my career. There is nothing as complex as New York State civil service. I worked at the federal level for a long time. I've worked with other states. Exactly. There might be a little sound effect in there or something, Josh. But
There it is. There it is.
But what's so amazing and so refreshing is the ability to say, hey, we can do things differently. And I think the HELPS program is a fantastic example of that. But the point is that you want leaders who care about people, because if you don't focus on people, nothing gets done. And my mantra is always, at DOT, our people are our secret sauce. We do amazing things on a daily basis, amazing things, build bridges, fix roads, literally connect people at every moment of their day. And we only get that done when we have an incredibly dedicated and focused workforce. And that's why being able to remove these barriers to entry, it's removing barriers of all sorts. It gives everybody equal access to the system. You're not reliant on a test. Not everybody performs well on a test. And you take away some of those barriers and wow, look what you can do. Look the people that you have access to and the people that want to come to work in civil service, because it truly is a calling. You said it before, Bryan, and it's very true. We at DOT are the owners and operators of the system. And you only get that chance when you work in civil service and you work at the department. We can hire all the consultants. We can hire all the contractors. They're fabulous partners. But at the end of the day, the department is responsible for making the decisions on how and where and why we're going to invest.
Let's go back to the origins of the New York HELPS program, and Commissioner Hogues, you can take us back to the beginning, to its earlier version, just the HELP, this no S, no New York, just HELP program. But take us back to it's the tail end of the pandemic, staffing shortages, in public-facing agencies. Really in every agencies were monumental. So take us through how your team decided, which agencies to include in the first program, and when did you feel that it was necessary to really expand the program to all the agencies?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so coming in June of 2022, new guy on the block, doing my rounds, meeting other department heads and commissioners. They said, hey, we need help. No pun intended. The program wasn't created at that time, but they said the system that we have right now just doesn't work. And so once again, from my background, spending so many years in operations, the thing that we focused on the most was the voice of the customer. And so in the private sector, if you're not listening to the voice of the customer and being proactive or reactive and flexible, you go out of business. And so I bring that to state service and public service, is really listening to the voice of the customer. So people say, well, who is your customer? And so I really start at the department level, at the agency level. So all of my staff, my employees, those are my customers. And I really need to listen to their voice and understand, because they're touching stuff each and every day. They're the ones, as Commissioner mentioned, that are making the things happen. The agencies, other agencies, those are my customers as well. Right, we're put there to be able to support them, but also the public is my customer, and the public has been speaking up for so long, saying this is maddening. I don't know how to break this code and get into civil service. And so you have the direct care agencies that came to me and said, hey, Hogues, we need to talk. And I said, okay, let's talk. And so they brought about 5 or 6 of the commissioners together, and we got on a call, and I said, go ahead. And they just unloaded on all the things that were wrong and broken and dysfunctional. And then I said, okay, well, tell me what you need. Tell me what you need to be successful. And they said, we need to be able to hire individuals quickly and efficiently so we can fill these gaps, because we have mandates to have people in place to provide coverage 24/7 in some cases. And so I have a great team, and I tell people I love feedback, right? And so it's not about having thick skin or anything. It's about collecting information, and it's a data point, all right? And so we have to use these data points to make decisions. And so I said, okay, here's what one of our customers is asking for. They're asking for efficient, remove barriers, and now. Can we do that under our current system? And the answer is no. And then in General Motors, we had this problem-solving exercise called the 5 whys. And so you continue to ask why until you get to the root cause. And so we did that. We started asking why. And we found the barrier, right? And so we're still working on this, but we were able to create the Hiring for Emergency Limited Placement program for the handful of state agencies to meet the needs that they were saying. And it took off, and it was amazing. And they said, wow, we didn't know we could do this. And I said, yeah, because we listened, right? And so not only did I listen to my partners as far as the agency heads, but I listened to my staff and my employees, right? They're the subject matter experts. So I said, this is what they want. How can we do it? And they went to work. And so my job is easy. I get to give permission and authority for individuals in the agency to dream and reimagine and to do stuff. And then they get excited and they get to do it. And so that's how HELPS was born. And so other agencies said, wait, what about us? We're having an issue hiring and bringing in people too. And we said, okay, well, let us figure this pilot out first. Let us get our feet wet and work out the kinks here. And eventually we said, okay, we're ready. And the other thing that individuals may not realize is when we did the first one on the state level, we also did one matching on local levels. So county governments were able to do the same thing because they were facing the same type of hiring crisis. And so with our statewide one, we're doing the same thing on the local level. And so, yeah, we're really excited about it.
So let's take a look at how this is currently and has so far impacted the Department of Transportation. So, Commissioner Dominguez, it sounds like it's not just addressing staffing shortages, which it is, but it's also an incredible opportunity for people who are seeking meaningful employment and careers, long-term types of things. You mentioned it. These are not just people who, may not have had opportunity. These are people who want to work here. And I think that's so important. You're not just hiring, you're hiring people who want to be in this industry, who want to be in this public service. So how has it impacted DOT, and what critical vacancies, has DOT been able to start to fill using this program?
So I think you've struck on it in the sense that, one, it's really, for those people that are really interested in state service, this is a huge removal of a significant barrier. It took you 5 years. Clearly you were interested, and we're really thrilled to have you, Josh.
It was worth the wait.
But from our end as well, clearly you're here at the right time doing the right work. So the matchmaking is important, right? But I think the other critical thing, and Commissioner Hogues can speak to this as well, is that you're seeing the effects long-term of these, I'll call them boom and bust cycles, right? So we have an enormous number of people at New York State DOT who have retired or are retirement eligible in the next 5 years. And literally, it's a concern. We have a great deal of expertise, people that have spent their careers with New York State DOT that are excellent at their jobs. And they're retiring. Well-deserved retirement, 30, 35, 40 years. I know because I personally signed everyone's retirement letter. And they're going, right? They've earned but it's all a result of, in 1992, 1993, we had a hiring, like the state was going out like there was no tomorrow, and we hired hundreds of thousands of people, right? I mean, across the board. DOT is a perfect example of all that. People are now coming to their 30, 35-year career marks, and they're going. But between 1992 and now, we've had literally boom and bust cycles, in the sense that we hired for a few years, and then literally it was a hiring freeze for 5 years, 10 years, then hire for a couple of years, then a hiring freeze again, all for various reasons, all having to do with the state of the economy, literally, et cetera. But fast forward, the opportunity that we have now is really to look at hiring differently. How do we make it easier? And this, obviously, the HELPS program is that level of opportunity that we've got. But more importantly, I think that if we look at all of the positions that are available, it's everything, right? So part of our job is to identify, how do we actually make it appealing for folks to come into state service, whether you want to be a bus or a truck inspector, an office assistant, an engineer, design bridges, a real estate specialist, an environmental specialist. We have so many different opportunities. We've been able to take advantage of the HELPS program in a way that's truly significant. And what I mean by that is we've been able to bring on over 500 people in a very short period of time. And that's just barely making a dent in our overall need, because I'll be more direct. We really, a nationwide issue that I talk about with my colleagues, other state transportation officials, is we don't have enough people graduating with civil engineering degrees. We don't have enough people literally in college right now seeking engineering degrees nationwide that can go to work for state DOT or some other state entity applying those principles. And it's a crisis. Everybody's very interested in engineering, but they're more interested in AI. They're more interested in gaming. They're more interested in all these other fields of engineering. And we have to demonstrate the value of coming to DOT. Now, we've got great mechanisms to do that. We've got great internships, apprenticeships. We have opportunities to work during the summer and during the school year. And when folks get a taste of what they get to do at DOT, they love it, and they want to come back. They want to know, like, all right, how do I get a job here, right? And that's what's very fulfilling about it. But if you come into state service and you get a chance to serve, the chances are pretty high we can bring you on a full-time basis if you want to do that. And that's the opportunity. And getting over that barrier of a civil service exam really has proven to be very beneficial.
Yeah. And I would say, and I know you have a question, Bryan, but to follow up on that, it's so we focus a lot on the civil service exam itself, and so that is a barrier. But when we talk about the time that it takes for an individual to get notified or have that opportunity to enter, that is a barrier and a deterrent as well. And so, as you were speaking, Commissioner, one of the things that HELPS does, and I had a couple reasons for wanting to do this. One was to make sure that I was supporting the customer, but the other thing was there was talk that maybe people just didn't want to be in state service anymore because we weren't seeing individuals applying like they were before, and so I said, hey, let's see what that looks like. And so when the HELP program started and state HELP program started, we started seeing hundreds and thousands of applications pouring in for single postings. And people were like, oh no, what's going on? I guess they do want to work here. And so this is important to Commissioner's point. If you are understaffed, you don't have the opportunity to succession plan. You don't have that opportunity to train up the next generation as those are that have spent their time here are sunsetting and going off into a well-deserved retirement. And so it's a never ending cycle that you're in. And so what this does is it brings in people to continue this thing going so that you can get them well trained, so that you can get that transfer of knowledge that we miss so much when we have those hiring blips, right? Because people just get it, and it's tough to replace experience just coming out of school or just coming from somewhere else, because we do some great and interesting and diverse things here in the state. And so it helps with the success of the agency. It helps with succession planning. And it also not only helps with recruitment, but it helps with retainment, right? And so we have the opportunity to create these wonderful atmospheres and welcoming work environments for people to come in and stay and hang out and check things out. And then the last thing I'll say, because I know Brian's looking at me, he's like, hey, I got a question I want to ask. This isn't your show, Hogues. Commissioner, I think we might be able to take the show over. No, we can't, because I love your radio voice. You have an amazing voice. But the thing that we look at is it's actually a privilege for us to be here in these positions during this time. And so we have to be good stewards of the opportunity that we've been given. And it all starts at the top. And so I don't know if I would have been given the freedom under a different administration, but I know that the administration that I'm serving under now allows me to be creative and do the things that we do. So we're very fortunate.
Oh, and it's so true. And, along with that creativity, and you mentioned the experience as well, and you've mentioned this earlier, but, under NYHelps and some of the great work we're doing at Civil Service, and you touched on it earlier, but can you talk more about looking at things where we can consider past work experience in lieu of a degree for some positions, or redefining job postings to make it easier to sort of, as we spoke about, reduce those barriers to entry to get folks in?
And so it is it's interesting when you're looking at it from the inside out. Everything sometimes looks great, and outside the customers are like, this makes no sense to me. And so we've seen it and as I mentioned, we're competing with the private sector, and the private sector has started that trend of looking at experience versus a degree. And we know there's certain positions that you need a degree in, but we know that there's a lot of opportunity for on-the-job training for the majority of our positions. And so other states are doing this as well, or have done it. And so we're looking for equivalency type of qualifications for individuals, because once again, I said earlier that not everyone desires to go to college. And when we look at the average age of entry into New York State, it's mid-30s. And so that means people probably have spent time somewhere else, and they bring that skill set with them. And so we're excited to be able to do that title by title as we go along and look at that and say, how can we make this more appealing and friendly and equitable for our population that we serve, so that New York State is representative of all those of all New Yorkers that reside here. And then when we talk about titles, and so once again, we have to put ourselves in the shoes of our customers, and this is the public. And some of our titles make sense to us, but if you're looking from the outside, you're like, what the heck is that? I don't qualify for that because I don't even know what it is. And so now we're looking at how do we make these titles more or make sense to common folks that are out there. And so we have a million different titles, it seems like. And I understand at some point in time it was important for us to have that and distinguish, but we're losing out on a pool of individuals that won't even apply because it just doesn't make sense and it doesn't translate to them. And so we're really looking at all those different types of opportunities to like I said, to attract diverse and talented workforce to build tomorrow.
One of the things that we've talked about on the podcast previously is, and Commissioner Dominguez, this is for you, is the the vision in planning forward. And I do think that there is a correlation here. Talk about, how NYHelps can help complement that vision in planning forward, which is such a huge thing for the department itself.
Oh, thanks, Josh. I think that I think it's hugely complementary. So just for context, just so everybody understands what planning forward is, it's New York State DOT's strategic plan. We came out with planning forward. It's very much an employee-driven, employee-informed look at literally updating our mission, our vision, our goals, our objectives, our values, right? And not just for purposes of putting them on a poster board, but living them and making them actionable. And the number one thing coming out of our entire exercise around planning forward, engaging our employees in this discussion about where do we want the department to be in the next 10, 20, 50 years? How do we want to lead forward? The core of it all came down to investing in our people and our organization, fundamentally. And the number one goal under planning forward is to invest in a diverse workforce, but also a professional workforce, making sure that everyone has the training, the skills, the knowledge that they need to do their job, and respecting one another in doing all of that. So it's all about our people. So it's not just a catchphrase when I say our people are our secret sauce. Investing in our people at every course gives us the ability to actually execute our mission. And our mission is critical. Our mission is literally something that we carry out every day. And for those that don't know, our DOT mission is to provide a safe, reliable, equitable, and resilient transportation system that connects communities, enhances quality of life, protects the environment, and supports the economic well-being of New York State. And when we start to think about all of those elements of our people and executing on our mission and advancing the organization, that's what we heard from our team members when we talked to folks about planning forward. How do we actually capture all of this? So investing in our people is critical to fulfilling our mission, but also cultivating a respected, diverse workforce with talented individuals to carry it out. That gets to the heart of our ability to execute our mission. And what I mean by that is literally what Commissioner Hogues just said, which is we need to have the people on board to make all of that happen. This is core to our succession planning. It's core to training. It's core to recruiting and retention. At DOT, one of the ways that we're demonstrating that is we've hired a new chief people officer who's come on board. She's got her name is Erin Yeager. She's new to this role as of June, but the bottom line is we're investing. And we're doing that by bringing in leadership, bringing in new thought, and literally leveraging all that we can from our partners at Civil Service to help pull it all together so that our focus is literally on our people at every single aspect of our people.
So the next question I have, and this is going to be for both of you, and especially listening to the backgrounds, the diverse backgrounds you both have made a conscious decision to make public service your career path. That was not an accident. There was serendipity, certainly, but that was a conscious decision in your career paths. For those who are, if they're in the next generation of employees or someone who's looking for a change and thinking about public service, what would be your pitch to anyone who's considering a career in public service and why, you guys decided to make that your lives?
Commissioner Hogues?
It's nothing like it in the world. And so when I was at General Motors and overseeing the production of radiators and condensers, I knew we were making an impact, right? Because we knew that someone driving in Arizona and they had a reliable vehicle, they didn't break down, that type of stuff. But you don't see that, right? But when you are in public service, you get to see the impact of your work, and you get to literally help thousands and thousands of people each and every day. And so I truly believe that we are all put here and we are put in these positions for a certain period of time. And as I mentioned before, we have to be great stewards and shepherds of the work that we do. And so it is exhilarating for me. I tell people that I love my job. And they say, what? I said, no, I love what I do. And so when I transitioned from the county to the state, people check in with me and say, how's it going? I said, I love my job. I love what I do. Now, granted, I was nervous and scared coming in. I'm like, the state? Oh no, right? What am I gonna do? But to Commissioner's point, I always stay people focused. And my thing is, I say people, they are our greatest resource, right? And so I get to deal with people, I get to impact, I get to lead, and most importantly, I get to be myself. And that's something that we overlook sometimes, is the ability to come to work and be yourself and be impactful and help others to be themselves as well, as we look and create policy that impacts the state. I mean, where else you don't go to IBM or Microsoft and impact like the state through policy and decisions that you make. And so I just love it.
I think my pitch to anybody coming into career civil service is to understand that in public service, you have the opportunity to fundamentally make a difference in the quality of people's lives. And it's real, it's tangible on a day-to-day basis. And just think about what we do at transportation with the incredible projects and programs that we do across the state. You're providing access to people that wouldn't otherwise have the ability to move around safely. And we leave legacy pieces, whether we're building a bridge or creating a new transit system, transit on demand. It really is that kind of thing. But for me personally, I had the opportunity to have incredible role models in my life. And those were starting with my grandfather, who was a World War II vet, served in the Pacific with the Marine Corps, came back and picked up his career with the United States Army Corps of Engineers. And I saw the incredible work that they did, not only helping build hydroelectric and other water and energy projects across the United States. But then I also saw my father, who took up that mantle of public service and served as a Secret Service agent, had a very illustrious career with the United States Secret Service. And talk about servant leadership. They were incredible role models to me. The level of sacrifice, but also the level of opportunity. And both of them exceeded and excelled in their careers. And I saw the difference that they made every day. And that's a chance that you have at coming to work in state service. You have a chance to fundamentally impact people's lives in very positive and progressive ways. And I guarantee you will leave a mark if you have the chance to serve.
So you can head to ny.gov/DOT jobs if you're looking for state jobs with DOT specifically. Statejobs.ny.gov is to where you can find them, generally speaking. And for more information on civil service, their website, cs.ny.gov. We will have links to all of those in the show description, so you can just click on those and find out more. Now, one thing we like to do, we like to have a little fun with our guests, and I didn't want to leave you guys out. We like to ask them a couple fun questions. So obviously, we're in the business of transportation, so we want to know what your favorite road trip is. And obviously, Commissioner Hogues, I don't know you specifically, but I know Commissioner Dominguez is all over the state all the time. So what your favorite road trip is, and when you're road tripping, what do you listen to? What's your favorite road tripping song? Commissioner Dominguez, we'll start with you.
Oh, my gosh.
Not to put you on the spot.
I like all modes of transportation equally.
Well played.
Come on.
I tend to be tend to be on the road a lot, and do have the great opportunity to see the beautiful state of New York. When I'm driving and we have time, when we're not on calls, when I'm not on a call, I love to plug in iTunes, and I'll play off my own personal playlist and torture anybody else that's in the car because I love all different kinds of music. So I can go from opera to country to R&B, you name it. I love it. So I do a random select.
Eclectic. I like it. I like it. Commissioner Hogues.
Yeah, we can ride together anytime. 'Cause I am similar. I love it all, but at our culture events, I remind everyone that I am a hip hop baby, and I was born at the cusp of hip hop being birthed, and so I do love hip hop. But interesting enough, when I thought about this position and traveling across the state, I thought I'd be listening to a lot of stuff. But sometimes you find yourself just wanting quiet, and I just drive, and it's quiet, and you collect your thoughts, and you think about conversations that you've had and all that great stuff as I travel along these wonderful maintained roadways, and I just enjoy it, right? It's so, I think when we talk about favorite trip, I think it was recently with Bryan. Where did we go?
No, we're
back
talking,
to your home, right?
No, back to Yonkers. Yeah,
Back to Yonkers.
That's right.
And it was like 1,000 degrees.
It was one of the hottest days.
It was one of the hottest days.
Yeah.
I had a suit jacket on, and we were doing the job fair. And Bryan was leaving. He said, "Hey, do you want to ride back to the hotel?" I was like, "No, I'll be good." And then I ended up walking like 5 miles back to the hotel in the frying heat. And so, yeah, but I got to see the neighborhood and check out stuff and look at like communities that we are impacting, and I want to knock on every door and tell them about NYHelps and do all that type of stuff. But yeah.
Well, that is just about going to do it for us here from the DOTPOD. I cannot thank you both commissioners enough for sitting with us and talking more about this wonderful program. Again, you can find out more about that. cs.ny.gov is a civil service website, but statejobs.ny.gov is where you can find more about the job openings. And if you're looking for DOT specifically, ny.gov/DOT jobs. Those links will be in the show descriptions. But just listening to your stories, truly inspiring, and the fact that you both are so committed to the public and to helping people out and to solving problems and really getting your hands dirty. It really is inspiring, and I thank you both so very much for taking some time out of what I know is an extremely busy schedule, but to sit down and have a chat with us. So thank you both so much.
So what's the name of the podcast again?
It's the DOTPOD.
Yeah, you know me.
A little naughty by nature. I got you. Don't worry. I'm a 90s baby too.
We got the hip hop.
I gotcha.
Well played.
So thank you both for joining us, and Bryan, thanks for pinch hitting and sitting with us. It's always great to see you back here at the main office.
Thanks for having me. It's like visiting old home here. It's nice to visit the old neighborhood, as they say. So.
And thank you all for tuning in to the DOTPOD. We're always glad to have you, however you listen to your podcast. If you need to reach on out, let us know what you think. podcast@dot.ny.gov is the email. That's podcast@dot.ny.gov. And we will be back. And until then, we'll be right here on the DOTPOD.